Hello everybody, welcome to Big Picture in the House, virtual. So this is kind of a new thing for all of us where we are highlighting our Big Picture in the House program that we normally do every summer, but we're doing it right in your own home. So thanks so much for joining us. Every week we will be featuring a new exhibit or a new artwork from the Figge Art Museum, so there's a lot of cool things in store for you in the next coming weeks if you're signed up for all of our sessions. But today we are going to be highlighting an exhibit that I am standing in right now. The name of this exhibit is called Seen and Heard, the Art of Empowerment. So it's really a whole exhibit about women artists and how women artists in particular have used art, and you can see we're surrounded by lots of beautiful art, how they've used art to overcome some of the things that challenge them in their lives. And you know, we all face challenges, right? So we're gonna highlight a few of those artworks. And I am joined today behind the camera by Kelsey Vanderkooy, who will be also sharing her thoughts about some of the artworks today. So the two of us are going to just kind of have some fun with you today. We're going to then hop into our art project after this is all over. So real quick, I want to give you a glimpse of the gallery. And so Kelsey, as you're filming, can you kind of do a panoramic of what it looks like in here? So I got a chance to choose one of my very favorite artworks that we have here in our Figge collection. So as part of the Seen and Heard exhibition, we are featuring an artwork by an artist whose name is Louise Nevelson. And she is a sculptor, and if you can look at this sculpture here, there's a lot of interesting things about it. Now, when you look at it at first glance, it has a lot of sort of square edges to it. It's one color, and when something is one color, we call that monochromatic. But one of the things that I think is so interesting and wonderful about Louise Nevelson is that she makes her sculptures very interesting by adding things and putting things together that we call an assemblage, using found objects. And you know, in many ways, this is a portrait that Louise made of that reflects the things that she was all about throughout her lifetime. And what I mean by that is that when she was living in New York City as an artist, as a woman artist, one of the challenges was that many people didn't really think about women as being real artists. So she was trying to become noticed, and she found a lot of the objects, or actually all of the objects that we see in this artwork are things that she found on the street. Things like leftover lumber, legs from a table I can see here. We've got kind of some scraps of wood, some interesting circles. And you know, you probably know this, when you find things that are maybe in a junk drawer or things that, you know, you don't really want to throw away, you think you might have a use for them, if you stop and put those all together, it starts to take shape and make something interesting. And that's really the kinds of sculptures that Louise Nevelson became famous for. She did some sculptures that were as tall as some of our ceilings here, maybe 12 feet tall. There was even one she called Cathedral. So this sculpture here, his name is Moonzag 3. And if we look very closely, like I said, she's got all kinds of plywood and table legs. I see one table leg, 2, 3, 4 over here. There might even be a 5th underneath that. It's part of a table. What I like about this is that you won't see all of these details unless you're looking very closely. Because as you can tell, she's painted it all black. And when we bring one color to lots of different objects, that is something that we call unity. That means it's kind of brought it all together. It has united all these pieces together. So by using one color, she makes it even that much more interesting. So thanks for joining me on my talk about Louise Nevelson. opportunity go by and not talk about a new artist that we've brought into our collection, and her name is Joan Stanton. And what really drew me to her artwork is the fact that it kind of reminds me a little bit of Louise Nevelson, who I just shared with you earlier. But Joan Stanton started out as a painter. And so when I look at this artwork and I know that about her, I can kind of see how these pieces sort of represent a very interesting and textured painting. So if we look even closer, some of the materials that Joan Stanton used was a rubber hose, and that is the black part that you see. So she didn't actually paint this piece. This is actual rubber hose material, maybe a little bit bigger than your garden hose. I think it's actually a radiator hose. And then she filled these hoses with like a plaster material, a white plaster, that dried, and then she cut it into sections, and she even made some interesting geometric designs within those pieces. But what's really playful about this piece, and something that I think is really fun that reminds me of her painting, is how she mounted these pieces sort of in a very unified way as they kind of crawl up the wall. As a matter of fact, you know, maybe these pieces move on their own at night. Who knows, right? They could be, they look like they're sort of having a conversation with one another, and even though they're not physically connected, they feel like they're connected. They're sort of all together and kind of bringing strength to the piece.
Hi everybody, it's Miss Kelsey. I miss you guys so much. So usually I'm behind the camera, but for once I'm in front of the camera. So the piece that I chose, I was going to cheat and just do Half Moon, but we all know what Half Moon. So I decided to do this piece instead. So it's called The Dream by an artist named Hartigan. So some of you probably aren't familiar with that name, and I wasn't either until we talked about another artist we're going to talk about later named William, who actually had her as a teacher. So we'll talk more about that later. So as you can see, this is a big painting. I'm actually going to step right in front of you. Can you guys see how tall this painting is? It takes up almost the whole wall. So one of the first things you're going to notice is, can you guess it? Look at all the bright colors. So I don't know about you, but I hope my dreams will be this colorful. So this is a type of painting that's called abstract or abstract art. So what that basically means is that we aren't supposed to really understand what we see in the painting. It can be anything we want. Now she is telling us that it's a dream, but what does that mean? Your dream can be anything it wants to be, right? So that's the beauty of abstract painting. We can come up with any idea we want. So Grace Hartigan is basically one of the first female artists that was known for this type of painting. So abstract painting was mostly only male artists, but she was one of the first to become super famous for this style of art. And her style is kind of considered they call it gestural style of painting. So what does that mean? So a gesture is just doing something with your body. If you've ever heard of doing gesture sketches, it means just doing something. So like we're like this, like picture like doing a big swooping motion with your arm with the paint, or like kicking something or doing something like that. That's making a gesture. So you can really see that. Maybe we'll do a close-up of this painting. You can really see that in the different lines of her work. Now, another thing that's interesting is during this time when she was making this painting, she had this whole idea of how art was all-consuming in her mind. And we don't really know, there's not a lot of history of what that means with her, but think about a time when you were all consumed. So maybe you felt overwhelmed or really sad about something and you couldn't quite get out of a slump. What was something that helped you overcome that? Was it maybe doing art as a hobby? Maybe it was going outside or just seeing a friend. I know we can't see a lot of our friends right now, but that's why art is there to kind of help guide us. But yeah, I hope you guys like this painting a lot. We are actually going to use this as our inspiration for our activity today. So we will talk more about it and show more details about it later.
Go. All right, everybody, this is the exciting part, the part we've been waiting for, where we actually get to create our artwork today. And as we mentioned before through our talk earlier, we are going to be inspired today by an artwork from an artist, a woman artist, whose name is Grace Hartigan. And the artwork that we're talking about is called The Dream. And I have a copy of it right here in front of me so I can sort of use it as a reference. Of course, the last thing I want to do is make my artwork feel like I have to create it just like she made it. But one of the things that is inspiring me the more I look at it are the layers that I see. There's a lot of layers of color on top of color. A lot of the colors in here are mixed on, you know, kind of naturally as she applied them right here on her canvas. So we have a really nice variety of colors. I know you'll have noticed on your supplies list, it just says acrylic paint. You can have a variety of colors. One of the things I love about you know, our craft stores, or you know, even your local hardware store, they have these little bottles. They're not a whole lot, you know, you don't have to get a whole lot of paint for this project. And you know, even if you have just some very basic colors, you're going to be amazed just by simply mixing while you're painting the variety of different colors that comes from just a few base colors, like of course our primary colors, the red, yellow, and blue. You can mix that with white and black and just kind of have fun with it. If you don't have acrylic paints, tempera paints will work, watercolor paints will work. You can even do this with crayon, really, just layering color on color, or oil pastel. So oil pastel is what I'm holding right here. And this is, it's very much like a crayon, except for instead of a crayon, which is made of wax, our oil pastel is made of exactly what it sounds like, oil and pigment. So you'll notice in Grace Hartigan's artwork here at the Dream, there are a lot of nice little lines that I see, and these to me look like she went back and applied these lines after her paint had dried. But if you look very closely, there's even some underlying oil pastel or line that we can create to get that same effect. So, you know, I don't really have an exact way that this has to be done. It's an abstract work of art, so that means it doesn't have to look like anything specific. As a matter of fact, this artwork, as it's titled, is called The Dream. So this is reflective of some, you know, something that she had in her imagination while she was sleeping. When you are getting ready for your artwork, I want you to think about what's in your imagination. It might be your favorite place to go on vacation. It might be a place that you go to when you're at school, maybe somewhere on the playground. And we're just going to start using our gestures, meaning we're going to be moving our arms and our hands and our fingers, and we're going to just sort of create some interesting lines. So, and again, if you don't have an oil pastel, use a crayon. You could even use a pencil. I mean, any kind of dark, or even if you don't have black, you can use purple or red, or, you know, this is, again, no exact science behind it. But I'm just going to add some lines, okay? Now these, by the end of my painting, we might not even see these. I'll keep that handy. And now I've basically set up my palette of paints that's kind of squeezed a variety of colors out from my paint palette, and I'm going to begin with my very first layer. So I might choose just kind of a lighter color to begin with. I'm going to go with this nice yellow, and I'm going to brush it on. Now I can do the whole base in one color, or maybe, and look at my paintbrush isn't always going in the same direction. Maybe I'm gonna add a little bit of peachiness to it over here. Just kind of, again, have fun. I've been thinking about this painting, how we were gonna create it today, and the great thing is that there's not exactly a real plan, right? I think that adds some interesting color mixes in there, okay? So let me test and see if I can add a little bit of oil pastel on the top here. Oh, I can, look at. So that's going to be kind of fun. I'm going to see some shapes I find here with my painting. I see a little bit of a shape here. Maybe I'll even go around that circle one more time. And then I'm ready to build my next layer. Now, my next layer, of course, I might add a variety of colors. I've got kind of the warm tones here. So I'm going to kind of wash out my brush here. And again, I have a variety of different sizes. I might end up just using this one, who knows, right? And I think I'll go with maybe more of a cool tone this time. My oil pastel again, see where that takes me. So maybe just some of these little, I can add some interesting textures here. Do you see how it pulls my paint aside? I think that's kind of cool. Blends it in. Sometimes the best way to make art, the best plan to have, is no plan at all, right? And in this case, I almost feel like the more wet that paint is, the more interesting I can use this to move my colors around. I might build on top of those later anyway, right? Maybe I want to fill this in with something real dark. As you're watching me and you want to be working, you can be working, or you can just watch my video and then set up your own supplies and have fun with it. In with my oil pastel, add some interesting lines, and kind of like that triangular shape I'm getting there with that swoop like an arrow. Maybe this can be kind of like eyes, nose. Let's see. I'm trying to trace some of the shapes that I've created with these paints, just to kind of outline them and highlight them. Okay, I think you're getting the idea, but I had mentioned before, I want to really kind of blend in this white color. So I'm gonna just sort of see where I think those might float the best. Yeah, kind of that way, right there. I don't want them completely in the middle. I think I'm just gonna do two kind of off to the side here. Now they're not pure white because of course they have the color shining through, and maybe I'll go back over those with my oil pastel. And again, like I told you before, your crayon should work just as good with it. Try it. If not, you can even just take a sharp edge of a knife and kind of dig into the paint. All right, I can let this dry for a bit if I think I need to add anything. I can always go back into it and over it with more colors and patterns. But you know, to me, I'm pretty happy with where this has ended up. So go ahead, have fun with it. I'd love it if you took some photos of this and actually posted these to our Figge Facebook page. Or you know, maybe we'll actually add some of these to our virtual museum page to show how our wonderful creative students have embraced the art of Grace Hartigan. So thank you so much.